Hello and welcome to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio. We are the podcast for the prepared, radio for the ready-minded. Thanks for tuning in and not tuning out. We've got a fun show tonight. We're going to be talking about emergency communication and another different type of solution. We talk about ham, we talk about GMRS and CBs and all of the types of radio communications. I mean, there's even that silly mark yourself safe on Facebook solution. But we're going to dive into the E1 app today. We're going to be talking to Corbin Miller, who's actually the guy who created this. We're going to find out why he made it, dive into what it can do, and don't worry, it's not an infomercial. It's just a conversation to learn more about this because it's intriguing, and I think all of us want better ways to stay in communication during a crisis as well as after a crisis. And so we're going to have some fun talking to Corbin. As usual, Paris and I are here. Shane, unfortunately, he is gone. Don't worry, he has not been audited by Doge. He is still doing well. We will catch him on the next episode. But Corbin, welcome to the episode, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're excited. It's fun to talk technology. We kind of geek out on gear and tech. In the world of prepping, though, a lot of times you're like, well, what happens when all that goes away? We talk about it all the time, so we don't need to worry about that today. But this will be kind of fun because it's a little different. We're going to get into your app, but I want to get into your background first so that everyone kind of knows. We know that you're already been into prepping and end times and all the fun stuff. Mm-hmm. Tell us kind of your purpose in prepping. Like, what got you into prepping?
Well, I grew up always in a family where we had some food storage. We had 72-hour kits here and there, and then they'd expire, and sometimes we'd get back to it, sometimes not. So kind of, in that pretty light prepping realm. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say light. I guess if you compare to the average person, it's probably quite a bit more, or you guys would know more than that. But I really got into it as I started having a family. So I've got 4 kids, 7, 5, 3, and 1. And nice. I think like a lot of people, I think I knew that I needed to get stuff going. And then when COVID hit, I had a little bit, and then I thought, this is why I should have been a little bit more serious about it. I think prior to that, we probably had, maybe 3 months of food storage. We had 72-hour kits, and that was about it. But then it was COVID. It was the COVID lockdowns. And then if you guys recall, so I'm in the Sandy area, right? So 3 weeks after those earthquakes hit.
Wow.
And we felt it. I thought lightning struck my house. So
really?
It was so, and it was different for everybody across the valley. But after that, I said, you know what, this is I feel like this is my final warning.
Yeah, your wake up call.
Yeah. So I and into that, and then starting to look at, I'm really one that when you get into prepping, you can really get down a rabbit hole, mm-hmm. and you can get overwhelmed pretty fast. And so I've always tried to pull back and say, okay, what resources do I already have? What can I use without spending money? And how do I keep this simple so that I don't go crazy, and so that I don't drive my wife crazy by getting too into it. But
that's the truth right there.
Yeah.
So is your wife on board though with the?
Oh, she's on board. Yep, absolutely. Awesome. She's on board. Yeah.
A lot of our listeners are like, okay, how do I get my spouse involved? And we've talked about that a few times. Fortunately, when I got married, my wife thought she came from a prepared family, and they had some stuff, and it was good, but it wasn't great. I got her into the bug, and now she's like way better, way more organized, at least on our preps than I am. It's kind of a huge, well, I can't say kind of, it is an absolute blessing to have a spouse that's into it, that understands it, and that prioritizes it, because it will save you not just in your daily living, but it will save you in the long run thousands, if not save lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've been blessed. My wife has been the one that she's been really practical with the prepping. Mm-hmm. So she's been the one, I can get into, hey, you start looking at homesteading, I get in the garden, you start looking at this, that, or the other. If I have to go off grid, and what happens to this, you can get into that stuff. And she's the one that's like, hey, do we have first aid kits in the car? We need a bag in the car for the kids. Do we have a fire plan? What happens if there's a fire? What do we do with the kids in the rooms and situate this? So she really puts the practicality into it.
You're ready to buy a zombie apocalypse vehicle, and she's like, "Hey, we need a first aid kit first." Like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But I think that happens a lot, and that's a huge purpose in my prepping and doing what I'm doing is I think it's so easy to get in and say, how do I go from 0 to 60? And it's like, hey, just start taking baby steps. Start with simple things. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's excellent.
Well, where did the idea for the app come from? Like, how did that all happen?
The idea, it came fall of 2023. We started talking about it just with my family. Take a look at the state of the world, state of the country, craziness that's gone on. You had COVID, you had the riots, you had, I mean, even going back to Trump's first term in office, right? And so anyway, myriad of things. You guys talk about it. You guys know a lot of things going on, and our conversation really was just, hey, if something were to happen, is there a quick solution to get help really fast from people that you trust? And I think everybody thinks, I've got at least a few or a handful of people nearby that I trust, that I know would come help me, and vice versa. I would go help them. And maybe you don't know all your neighbors, but you have a handful of people, right? And so the conversation started there, and I started looking into saying, and a family member told me, they said, it'd be nice if I could just choose some people that I wanted. It'd be nice if I could just push a button, something quick that would just alert people and let them know. And that got my wheels turning. So I started diving in to find out, is there anything out there like this? I've got Nextdoor. My street is a neighborhood watch street. We get on Facebook. You have some of these tools, but nothing really for neighbors that really is like, hey, this is just for an emergency. Tap a button, get help fast. So that's how the idea started.
That's funny you said Nextdoor. I feel like Nextdoor and even all the Facebook community groups, and even now the Ring app,
Mm-hmm.
like 90% of the notifications I get are, did anybody hear that boom?
Yeah.
Did
You're like,
anyone
no,
see that suspicious guy driving
you're like,
in
it's
the
not
yellow DHL van? And I'm like, dude, he's a delivery you don't know what DHL is? Like,
Yeah.
it's the weird obscure stuff that wastes your time. So
Yep.
so bypassing all of that, you created an app that can just send a message to those people in the party.
Yeah. And
right?
you choose who you're sending it to. That was the biggest thing, like with Nextdoor or Ring by Neighbors by Ring, right? These things, they lump you into a radius or into a neighborhood, but you don't have control over that.
Mm-hmm.
So do I want to alert people I don't want to alert people that are even a mile away. I mean, I want people that are literally my next door neighbors or just up the street. They can get to me quick. And talking to people, they're like, yeah, same thing. Nextdoor, Neighbors by Ring. It's kind of the neighborhood complaint app is the typical feedback that I got. I don't want the notifications. I like the idea of having something for neighbors, but I don't care about someone's stray cat 5 miles from me. Hopefully they find it, but
all those apps are comms for Karen, basically, right?
yes,
all the weird stuff you don't really care about or need to know about.
Yeah.
Well, that too, and it gets buried in the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might have a really active Facebook group that's your neighborhood group, and they're talking about, hey, who wants to come over for this gaming night, or who wants to do this, who wants to, I'm going to sell some stuff on Marketplace unless you guys want to buy it first, kind of. I mean, I get all the notifications too all about that stuff. Somebody was like, hey, I have some extra whatever. Who wants to have it? Come by and get it. It's on the porch. There's stuff like that, which is cool. And that's good. But and correct me if I'm wrong, Corbin, but I think what you shared with me is that like everybody has, like, I know my neighbor's phone number. I have probably, I don't know, half a dozen of my neighbor's phone numbers. And if I had to call them each individually, it would take forever to see who's home, to see who could help me with the emergency. Like maybe I do have a Ring or a camera and, oh shoot, somebody's knocking on my door a little harder than it should. My kids are home by themselves. They're scared. They're calling me saying, what's up? Like I need to be able to call I don't know who's home. So I want to tap one button and that button rings multiple people at once. Right.
Yeah.
So tell us about how that, tell us
think like old school emergency preparedness phone tree, right? Where you kind of have this downline of, I call the neighbor calls another neighbor. So, this is, let's just put them all on the same thing. As soon as I tap that button, it alerts everybody that I've selected that I want to alert. So, yeah, I mean, if you got 10 people on there and 5 of them are gone, well, 5 of them are home. I've talked to countless people that have had stories, right, where the neighbor calls, the neighbor's daughter's home alone, hears something upstairs, calls, can you go over and check? Sorry, I'm not home. got to call someone else. Someone's not there. Finally, they get desperate. They call 911, and SWAT shows up, clears the house, and the window got blown open by a storm, right? A lot things like that happen, right? So people are looking to get help from neighbors quick.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this really just one press of a button, mass alert everybody at once.
So how's this different from, like, I'm sure you've heard of those stuff, help, I've fallen and I can't get up, buttons. That's a personal emergency response button.
Yeah. Typically those, right, they're going to a call center. It's routing through dispatch. And this is the other piece of what we're doing with E1. Currently, the average response time for a 911 call in the United States is 10 minutes. And then if you have an alarm system that you pay for that will, again, gets routed to a call center, routed through dispatch to the right, that whole process, that response time for an alarm system is over 36 minutes on average.
Wow.
So regardless, it's like there's a lot of cool technology coming out that can detect stuff. You got cool stuff coming in home security systems, cameras with AI built in to determine, is that a human, not. I mean, they've got cameras now that detect different types of guns. So a lot of cool technology, but nothing fills that gap of, well, you're still at a 10-minute wait time to get help. So it differs in the sense that it's alerting these people, but it's alerting the people that can get to you within seconds rather than minutes.
Okay. Let's pause for a second and actually share the intro video, so our listeners can kind of learn a little bit more about what this is.
Cool.
E1 provides the fastest way to get help during an emergency, and all you have to do is tap a button. To get started, create a group and add trusted neighbors from your contacts. In case of emergency, just tap and hold the emergency button. Then select your emergency type. E1 will alert your chosen contacts and open a group chat where they can arrange help. Once the situation is resolved, tap Mark Safe to notify the group. If you're on the receiving end of an alert, you'll be notified by this sound. You'll then see a quick response menu with pre-written replies. After selecting a response, you'll enter the group chat to coordinate help with fellow trusted contacts. Our mission is to offer a new level of emergency preparedness and home security. With E1, you can feel at ease knowing that help is just a tap away.
Nice.
That's really cool.
So it's quick. I like that you have the options to, I can reply or I can show what I did. And if you guys want to look at this deeper, want to get more information on it, go to preppertalkradio.com, go to our recommendations page. So it's preppertalkradio.com/recommendations, or hit our homepage, click on recommendations. We're going to have it there on the page for you. You can click there, go through the overview. They've got a whole website that explains everything. There's just another layer of defense to help you stay in communication when you need to. My initial thought, I was just like, okay, grid down, this doesn't work. But 99.99995 of all the other scenarios that you're going to face, just life, this works. I'm on vacation, something's going on with my house, alert my neighbors. One of them can say I can take care of it, right? My trusted neighbors, not just post on Ring, hey, can someone check my house?
Yeah. You don't want anybody going in your house.
Now know you're not home and who wants to steal, right?
Yeah.
Well, I noticed two buttons on there, Corbin. One button was emergency, and then the other button was like an orangish yellow button that said, I'm worried, right? Is that what it said?
Yeah.
So tell us about the difference between those two.
Yeah. So emergency, obviously urgent, need help right now, emergency. Worried is more of just, hey, I'm concerned. This isn't an urgent thing, but I could use some help. Something suspicious is going on. Personal story, quick, that this relates to. My wife never answers the door when I'm gone. Salesman comes, she won't answer the door. Teacher, the kids don't answer the door. There's the age of social media now. We see enough, right? You get on, you're going to see all these crazy use cases, people breaking in, moms home alone, etc. So this could be something that someone's knocking on the door, they're lingering. So maybe they start looking through the window. Maybe it's not a total emergency, but I feel really uncomfortable. And I can hit that worried button, get 4 or 5 neighbors on alert to just say, hey, someone's just on my doorstep. Something seems off. Can you guys be on alert? Maybe can you guys even just walk down the street? Let's get this guy off my doorstep. Type situation. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's natural, tropical storm hits somewhere. I've got friends in Orlando. This happens all the time. They've told me this would be great because we get tropical storm comes through. We get trees knocked down. We always need help from neighbors. We got to cut down trees. We got to put fences back up. So it's more for things like that. And you'll notice that there's a chat feature in there, right? Again, just with those trusted people, there's a chat feature so you can communicate these things in the app.
We get crazy winds up here in Bountiful, and a few years ago we had a windstorm that decimated my roof, decimated trees in the neighborhood. Like trees, I drive out of town. I'm going down to a meeting. I drive into Salt Lake, and I saw a billboard that had flown across the street. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go home. This is nuts. Turned around and went home. And on my way back up the hill, all the trees that were standing on my way down the hill, a third of the trees were down on my way back up the hill. And I'm just like, what? And I hadn't gotten a text yet from anyone. And within a half hour, everybody's outside helping each other with trees, blocking driveways, trees on cars. Like, this would be nice because then you could have known, like, prioritize, hey, there's this emergency or that emergency of the group that you're really concerned with. And you can prioritize that first.
Yeah.
I see there's a really good use case in that scenario.
Now you can have more than one group, right, Corbin?
You can have more than one group. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Like, what was your thought process in building that feature into the app?
Yeah. So currently you can have two groups. The app is free, so it's free to download, and we'll add features down the line that we'll charge a subscription for. But currently, as is, the app is free. So two groups. One is basically, these are just my E1 contacts. These are my selected people that I trust. Nobody really even sees who else is in the group. They just know that I'm going to contact them if I need help. So that's one group. The other group is more of a neighborhood group, open. Everybody sees who's in the group. Everybody can add each other to the group. So you have an admin of that group, but you're not in full control like you are with your E1 contacts. So it's built more for that kind of a personal group, so to speak, and then more of an open neighborhood type.
Is there a way to see who's already got the app downloaded maybe in my neighborhood?
Yeah, we're working on showing that specifically with people that would be on there, but also communities. We call them communities that are already formed, and that feature's coming soon. So you'll be able to see, is there something already existing in my neighborhood?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we want to promote it, and part of building the group is that you got to get your neighbors to download the app.
Yeah.
So, you could make a group of people, but if they don't have the app themselves, then it doesn't work, or does it still work?
So you'll still get notified via a text. You just won't be able to really respond or to alert other people. So if I invite you to my group, Paris, and you decide I don't want to download the app, but I'd still be willing to help you, you can still get notified via text.
Now it doesn't have that alarm sound that comes through because it's just a text. That's in the app, right?
That's only in app. Yep. And you can put that, we've put that so that if you put your phone on silent, you can allow for that to come through. So it's a critical alert. It'll come through like an Amber Alert on your phone if you allow it. If you don't want that happening, you don't have to, but if something happens in the middle of the night and you're willing to help out, you don't want an alert to just fall silent.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Wow. It's way cool. Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Those, like we said, if you want to get information on it, head on over to preppertalkradio.com/recommendations, and you'll see the E1 button there on our page, as well as links to a lot of the other products that we really love. Communications, we don't talk about this enough, how vital it is to have communications open, not just after disaster, but during and before, or even just in a concerned situation. I remember as a kid, all we had was the dial tone and the regular phone, right? Everything's connected on the wall. Now we've got phones. We're all over the place with digital technology. We've got more computing power in our pocket than ever available to anyone in history. So actually being able to use it for something other than scrolling Instagram or something, that's huge. And what were the times you said the typical response time for like an emergency call?
So 10 minutes for a 911 call. 36 minutes is the average for your alarm system. If your alarm goes off and you pay to have that notify first responders for you, that average time is 36 minutes.
Man.
Wow. What are you guys doing to grow this, the app are you doing ads at some point soon? Or are you just, I know you're in the beginning phases of it. We kind of
Yeah.
caught you at a good place because we're coming in at maybe towards the beginning of it. I don't know how many people you told me the other day that you only even have a few hundred downloads at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're over 500 right now,
Nice.
and growing. So we're looking to, it's really word of mouth is really all we've done. We haven't promoted it. We haven't run ads. We haven't done any of that yet. But things we're looking at is collaborating with other like-minded people, other influencers that have started to talk about it. And then the other things we're looking at are piggybacking off of already existing communities that have like type concerns, but don't have the tools to carry out the communication. So that being mainly, I've been talking a lot with neighborhood watch groups. So my street is a neighborhood watch street. We've had 7 or so property crimes in the last 12 to 18 months on my street.
Wow.
And I'm up towards the mountains, safe place. Haven't had a lot of issues, but we've had cars stolen, garages broken into, people followed.
I'm just thinking for schools, like you could
Followed home.
all these teachers can have their phones connected in the app, and we like active shooter scenario or real fire drills, like real emergency issues. Boom, popped it in there, and then like if it's an active shooter, then you can see like people are like, yeah, I just saw him in my hall or by classroom 4E, whatever. Like you could actually communicate better and try to keep people safe with clarity of, okay, I saw something. Here's what's going on.
So that brings up another question, Corbin. Like, it sounds really obvious when you're home, but what if you're out shopping or you're in, for example, I can't remember who it was, but recently I had a friend I was listening to, he was talking about how his, it was, one of my good buddies, actually, his daughter, they were at a store in a parking lot and some dude was trying to get in the car and they were in the car, in the front seat of the car was locked. And she called dad and said, Dad, there's this guy trying to get in our car. What should we do? And he's like, keep the doors locked. Don't open it. That might be a good opportunity to have this app on there to say, hey, get down here. Cause he was several miles away with no car. But what if a friend, because he doesn't want to hang up and call a friend to go down there because he wants her to stay on the phone. Right.
Right.
So what about like if somebody's away from home, and how do you alert somebody that, hey, I'm not at home, I'm down the street, or I'm at, the shopping center or whatever? Does it have a location kind of a setting too? Or
yeah. So we'll geolocate. So it's got a location tracker. So you'll be able to see the live location of the person that sent the alert. So if they're not home, it'll show you their live location.
Oh,
yeah.
That's cool. So if somebody says, hey, I'm at the shopping center and I think somebody's robbing me or whatever, somebody's about to rob me, then you can notify that and then get people to come into your, like they would still be your neighbors where you live, but they could probably drive, or maybe they could call 911 for you because you
Exactly. Yep. And that's part of it, right? So you saw the demo. As soon as you tap that button, everybody gets notified. You don't have to say anything, describe anything, call anyone. All you have to do is tap that button. You then have options after that to describe what the situation is, if you can. But the point is that if I can't even talk, call 911, do anything, I can tap a button. People know that I'm in trouble. They can see my location. They could call 911 for me. They can get to me quick, right? I now have the biggest thing with this, I would say, with regard to preparation that I've seen and people that I've talked to when it comes to prepping, the vast majority of people that I talk to about their prepping, they prep in isolation. And it makes sense to a degree, right? That I'm not sharing my food storage with my whole neighborhood. I'm not revealing everything that I've done and that I have and everything else. But when it comes to these everyday life emergencies or things that could happen that you want to be prepared for, I don't want to be isolated. If I've got people around me that can come help, that know where I am and know that something's going on, now I'm not alone. And to me, that's the biggest, simplest step you can take in preparation for some emergency that may happen, is just having people ready to help.
Now, do you have a limit to how many people can add to that personal group?
Nope, no limit.
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, no limit.
Can I be part of like 6 other people's groups?
Yeah.
It's just I can hold.
You can create 2, and then you can be as part as many as you're invited to.
So you could actually set this up as a prepper. I'm thinking, okay, for my prepper network, if I want to set it up for my prepper network, put it on a separate phone with a different phone number and have notifications to that group. And then I have my own personal one for my family. Right.
Yeah.
So I could use this as a really fantastic tool to be like, oh yeah, alien invasion in Utah, everyone be on the lookout.
Well, that's not too far off with that march they just had in Salt Lake City the other day.
Different aliens.
Yeah, different aliens.
Green aliens. Green aliens.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you could quite a few different uses I could imagine. Guys, check out the app, get creative. We'll be downloading it ourselves. And I think Paris, you already got it downloaded, right?
Yeah, I downloaded it the other day and I was trying to, I didn't want to go through all the stuff and set it all up until I talked to Corbin a little bit more about what are the features and benefits. And so that I could actually, I want to make it right the first time. But if you can remove people from the group that you create too, probably, and you can add and remove.
You can leave a group if you don't want to be in the group. You can, all those options are there.
That's awesome. And then, so one of the features coming down the road, it sounds like, is that you're going to be able to have another group or third group or maybe a fourth group if you want to add those.
Yeah. So with regards to, and we call them communities on the app. So not to confuse people if they go look at it and they're like, you guys are talking about groups, it says community. Same thing. We call them communities, but we'll add to where you can have unlimited communities. People have expressed interest in that. Things like if you have a prepper group, a lot of stay-at-home moms that I've talked to want school mom groups. Something goes on at the school, I want to be in communication quickly with other moms that are there about what's going on with our kids.
Good.
But so you'll be able to create that. We're also going to implement a community preparation planning tool to where you can go in with that community and plan out, okay, if something happens, here's what we do, and have that in-app to refer to be able to put kind of emergency preparedness plans together and have that. And that's been something that I think of all the time, that I live near family and I'm like, man, we kind of loosely have this plan, but we don't have anything written down, cemented. What are we going to do? What happens if, who's in charge of what? And same thing with the neighborhood. So a lot of features coming that way.
I think a really good feature that you should have is like an education resources tab, and Prepper Talk Radio subscription should be like the first thing.
I agree.
Right there. Right, Scott?
I agree.
Resources, click. Prepper Talk Radio, yes, click. Subscribe.
We do have some pretty awesome family planning guides and resource planning guides over at preppertalkradio.com/resources. That's our free stuff. But yeah, anything that has good plans and communication for plans, that's one of the biggest gaps most preppers have, is they don't have a plan or notification method for their group. They're like, oh, just text or call. This is a really smart, simple, fast alternative, right? And getting your ham license takes a while, and not all of your friends are going to have a ham license, but for longer communication, great. Yeah. My ham is really, that's post-apoc, right? It's after doomsday. This is for every day. And I can see a lot of really good applications. I'm actually going to, when we get off this call, I'm going to be sending a text out to my entire family. Let's start our group over here. But
I think too, I'll just add quick if I can. I think it's a preparation to getting the ham, right? It's use what you have right now, get people at least connected, and form these communities so everyone knows, hey, if something happens, we're going to help, and then add to it as you go. Okay, if we go off grid, I know still who my people are and who I'm going to communicate with. Here's the plan if the app doesn't work, right? I think it's a great stepping stone for that.
Absolutely.
That's a really good point. What do you see in terms of preparation? I know the app, I know you have goals to grow the app, but let's shift a little bit. And what are you going to, do you have any plans to expand into any other preparedness type stuff? Or are you really seeing this just kind of be your main focus? And then, with some of the things that have happened, like you mentioned the riots earlier, that was something that kind of catalyzed the idea of having some way to notify people with, there's a lot of people that I've heard that have had some of the people from over the border in their neighborhood snooping around, and this would be a perfect app for those kinds of things. Yeah. So, it's kind of a little bit of the world, what's going on in the world. What are you seeing? What are some thoughts you have there?
Yeah. One use case, I don't know if you guys saw the story in Kaysville of the mom that was home alone. Had a guy that was illegal immigrant trying to break into her detached garage, and then to her house. So she's home alone. Her kids see the dad is away on a work trip. Gets a call from a Gab watch. Panicked kid. His wife calls. Someone's trying to break into the house. He can't help. They're panicking. Luckily, the police got there in time. Nothing happened. But that's a perfect use case for just get your neighbors, chase the guy off. Neighbors are willing to step out and start yelling. We're not telling anybody to go into a gunfight. We're not forming militia to combat whatever this side or the other.
We're not telling anyone not to either.
Well,
stand your ground.
Be smart.
Be wise.
Hey, speaking of that, this might be a preview because we might talk about it in another show, but there's a Senator Mike Lee just proposed that I can't remember what section of the Constitution it is, but it allows for the president to they call them pirates, where they can actually go out and form these semi-militias and have the full faith and backing of the president of the United States. And they can go, it's usually for like over on the ocean and the sea, but they can go out there, and if they capture a pirate or capture some kind of something, and they can even keep some of the proceeds, whatever they find, whatever they get, and they bring it back, and they can get to keep it. So Senator Mike Lee is trying to propose that as an option for really helping to secure the border and secure some of the things that are going on around the country. So I thought that was pretty. I just read that the other day. It's kind of cool. But that's a great use case scenario. Like if there's anything in your neighborhood that's amiss or awry, you can literally say, hey, I was just out walking the dog and I saw, so-and-so family there. Somebody was knocking on the door a little longer than they should have, or, hey, are you guys okay? Could it be something used like for something like what if you see somebody else might be in distress? You could use it. Hey, are you okay? Or what do you think?
Yeah. So you can communicate. We're working on, again, this is all feedback that we've gotten, right? We don't have all these features rolled out. Working on to where you can alert somebody else. So I see something going on at somebody else's house. I can alert them, send an alert to them, let them know, hey, I see something is off.
Because I've seen before where, and this is a story I heard where somebody's driving down the road and they saw the back part of the house was on fire. And they're like, shoot, how do I get a hold of them to find out like what's how to get the fire? Obviously they can call 911 and have the fire department and give them the address, but you got to notify the people in the house potentially. And if you don't know those people, I think this is another good tool to kind of get out and get to know your neighborhood, and say, hey, look, I'm forming this group on this app. I'd like to know if you're interested in being a part of my notification group in case emergency comes down. / if you have an emergency, I'll be there for you. And that's a great way to kind of get to know your neighbors, I think, a little bit. Like, I think what you said earlier, one of the first, it's like Fight Club, right? The first rule of prepping is don't tell anybody. We don't talk about our preps, right? At the same time, though, it's like, wait a minute, if you need help, we need to have a community that's going to be there and get each other's backs and, so to speak, as they say, have each other's sixes,
It's funny as we talk about all this, I kept thinking about for my community as a neighborhood watch. I'm like, man, we need something for the cougars and coyotes here. And those are the biggest problem we have. So you can tell how different it is where each of us live. But I want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. Appreciate your time, Corbin. I love the idea of the app. I'm definitely going to be downloading it myself. Any final thoughts that we should let our listeners know about before we end this episode?
No, I think I appreciate you guys having me on. I think with regards to the app and prepping, I say this is just a great, simple first step into prepping. And if you're deep into prepping and you've got a lot going on, think of this to cover those situations that maybe you don't always think of in the end times or in terrible situations. It may not be the grid going down, but maybe you're gone and someone in the family is home and has a medical emergency and you just need someone to get there quick. It's for those situations.
Another thing I was thinking, since we know you, Corbin, if anybody's out there listening and downloads the app and has some feedback, shoot us a message. Do you have a feedback feature on the tab on the app too?
Yep, there's a feedback feature in there, and
cool. Well, between us and the feedback feature, maybe we can help you make this app even better.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being on, guys. Go check out the app. Go to preppertalkradio.com/resources to see it. You can also get it on our recommendations page. We're going to have it listed all over the place, so it's easy to find. Also, this episode has been brought to you by our friends over at Survival Frog. Yeah, it sounds weird, but they have the best meat, chicken. No, don't worry, it's not frog meat. It's chicken and beef, delicious, cooked, ready to eat, 25-year shelf life, and you can use the Prepper Talk 10 code to save 10% on discount on your checkout. So check that out. Thanks for tuning in and not tuning out. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Take care. Thanks, guys.